The taser hit him square in the chest. 72 years old, and James Carter dropped like a stone on the cold marble steps of the war memorial. The crowd gasped. Officer Daniels stood there, weapon still raised, convinced he had just neutralized a threat. But 60 seconds later, a black limousine pulled up. The door opened. A 5-star general stepped out, his chest covered in ribbons and medals. He walked straight to the old man lying on the ground, knelt beside him, and whispered something that made every officer within earshot freeze. What could make a general kneel? What had Daniels just done? It was Memorial Day afternoon in Washington, D.C., and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial was packed with families, veterans, and tourists. The black granite walls reflected the late spring sun, each panel etched with thousands of names. James Carter stood alone before Panel 10 West, his weathered hand trembling as it traced a name carved into the stone. His lips moved silently. Tears streamed down his face, disappearing into his gray beard. He had been standing there for 3 hours. Officer Marcus Daniels of the Metro Police SWAT unit received the call at 4:15 p.m. Dispatch said there was a situation at the memorial, an elderly man refusing to leave, creating a disturbance. The ceremony was supposed to start at 5, and the Secretary of Defense would be attending. They needed the area clear. Daniels arrived with his partner, both in full tactical gear. The sight of the old man seemed harmless enough, but protocols were protocols. Daniels approached cautiously. "Sir, I need you to step away from the memorial. The ceremony is about to begin." Carter did not turn around. His fingers remained pressed against the wall. "I am not leaving," he said quietly. His voice carried the weight of decades. Daniels felt his jaw tighten. "Sir, this is not a request. If you do not comply, I will be forced to remove you." The old man finally turned. His eyes were red, but there was something fierce in them, something that made Daniels hesitate for just a second. "You do not understand, son. I made a promise. I come here every Memorial Day. I stand here for the men who cannot." The crowd had begun to notice. People pulled out their phones. Daniels felt the pressure mounting. His supervisor was watching from across the plaza. This was supposed to be a simple removal, just an old man who had overstayed his welcome. But Carter was not moving. Daniels reached for his radio, called for backup. Within minutes, 4 more officers surrounded them. "Sir, final warning. Leave now or you will be arrested." Carter straightened his back. He was tall once, you could tell. The military posture was still there, even though his body had been worn down by time. "I served this country for 30 years, he said. "I earned the right to stand here." Daniels had heard it all before. Everyone had an excuse. Everyone thought the rules did not apply to them. He unholstered his taser. "Sir, do not make me do this." Carter did not flinch. He looked at Daniels with something close to pity. "You have no idea what you are doing, son." That was the moment Daniels pulled the trigger. The electrical current shot across the space between them. Carter's body went rigid, then crumpled. The crowd screamed, and in that terrible silence that followed, no one noticed the black limousine pulling up to the curb. The door of the limousine opened before it had fully stopped. A man in full military dress uniform stepped out, and the afternoon light caught the 5 stars on his shoulders. General Marcus Thompson was 76 years old, but he moved with the purpose of a man half his age. His chest was a tapestry of ribbons, the Distinguished Service Cross, the Silver Star, 2 Purple Hearts, and dozens more. Behind him, 2 aides scrambled to keep up. Thompson's eyes scanned the scene and locked onto the figure on the ground. His face went pale. He pushed through the crowd of officers who instinctively stepped aside. The general's presence changed the atmosphere instantly. Daniels felt his stomach drop. Thompson knelt beside Carter, ignoring the dampness of the marble, ignoring the protocol that generals do not kneel in public. He placed a hand on the old man's shoulder. "Jimmy," he whispered. "Oh God, Jimmy, what did they do to you?" Daniels stood frozen, taser still in his hand. "Sir, he began, but Thompson cut him off with a look that could have stopped a tank column. "Do not say another word, officer. Get a medic here now, not in a minute. Now." One of the aides was already on the radio. Thompson turned back to Carter, who was beginning to stir. The old man's eyes fluttered open, unfocused. He looked up at the face hovering over him, and recognition slowly dawned. "Marcus?" His voice was barely a whisper. "Is that really you?" "I am here, Jimmy. I am here." Thompson's voice cracked. The surrounding officers exchanged confused glances. Daniels felt something cold settling in his chest. Who was this man? Why would a five-star general know him? The crowd had grown silent, everyone sensing they were witnessing something significant. Thompson helped Carter sit up slowly, carefully. Easy now, take your time. A military medic arrived within 90 seconds, carrying a field kit. The general waved him over, but did not let go of Carter. Daniels found his voice. "Sir, I did not know. I was just following procedure." Thompson finally looked at him, and Daniels wished he had not. "Do you know who this man is, officer? Do you have any idea what you just did?" Daniels shook his head. "No, sir." Thompson's expression was a mixture of anger and profound sadness. "This man saved my life 57 years ago. He carried me 2 miles through enemy fire when I should have died, and you just tasered him like he was a common criminal." Thompson's voice carried across the Memorial Plaza as he told the story. "It was February 1968, he began. The Tet Offensive had just started. I was a 20-year-old lieutenant, fresh out of West Point, assigned to a fire base near the DMZ. Carter here was 19, a private first class who had been in country for 8 months. We did not know each other well back then. He was just another grunt in my platoon. The fire base was overrun at 0300 hours. We had intelligence that something was coming, but nothing prepared us for the scale of it. Mortars, rockets, small arms fire from 3 sides. They hit us with everything. We lost half the platoon in the first 15 minutes. The perimeter collapsed. I called for evacuation, but the helicopters could not land under that much fire. We had to pull back to a secondary position, except I did not make it." Thompson paused, his eyes distant. "A rocket-propelled grenade hit right next to me. The blast threw me 20 feet. Shrapnel in my leg, my side, my back. I could not feel anything below my waist. I thought that was it. I thought I was done." The rest of the squad kept moving. They had to. That was the rule. You do not stop for the wounded when you are being overrun. Everyone understood that. Everyone except Carter. Jimmy here, he doubled back, came running through the fire, through the smoke, and he found me. I told him to leave. I screamed at him to leave. He just looked at me and said, "Not happening, LT." He threw me over his shoulder in a fireman's carry. I weighed 190 pounds. My gear added another 60, and this kid, this 19-year-old kid, carried all of that through 2 miles of hostile territory. The crowd was completely silent now. Even the other officers had stopped pretending to do anything else. Carter's face was unreadable, but tears rolled down his cheeks. Thompson continued. "We moved through rice paddies, through jungle, through villages that may or may not have been friendly. Twice we had to hide while enemy patrols passed within meters of us. I was fading in and out of consciousness, losing blood. Jimmy kept talking to me the whole time, kept me awake, told me about his girl back home, about the farm he grew up on in Iowa, about the Chevy he was going to buy when he got back to the world. I remember thinking his voice was the only thing keeping me alive. We reached the evacuation point just as a Huey was landing. The door gunner saw us coming and laid down covering fire. They pulled us aboard. I remember looking at Jimmy's face as we lifted off. He was covered in blood, most of it mine. His hands were shaking. He had not fired his rifle once during that entire 2-mile trek because both hands were holding on to me. The medic on the helicopter told me later that if I had arrived 5 minutes later, I would have bled out. 5 minutes. Thompson looked around at the gathered crowd. I spent 6 months in a hospital in Japan, had 9 surgeries. They told me I would never walk again. I proved them wrong, but it took 2 years. By the time I got back to the world, Carter had finished his tour and gone home. I wrote to him, tried to find him, wanted to thank him properly. He never responded. I found out later he did not want the attention. He just wanted to be left alone. The Army gave him the Medal of Honor. He never wore it, never talked about it. He just came here every Memorial Day to remember the men who did not make it home. The medic finished checking Carter's vitals. "He is stable, sir. Elevated heart rate, but nothing critical. Should we transport him?" Thompson shook his head. "Let him decide." He turned to Carter, who was sitting up now, more alert. "Jimmy, do you want to go to the hospital?" Carter wiped his face with the back of his hand. "No. I want to finish what I came here to do. I want to stand with my brothers." Thompson helped him to his feet. The old veteran swayed for a moment, then found his balance. Daniel stepped forward, his face pale. "Sir, He stopped, his voice breaking. "I am so sorry. I did not know. I should have. Carter looked at him for a long moment. The anger in his eyes had faded, replaced by something else. Exhaustion, maybe, or understanding. You were doing your job, son. You did not know, but that is the problem, is it not? Nobody knows. Nobody asks. Thompson turned to address the crowd of officers. Every one of you needs to hear this. This man represents thousands of veterans who walk among us every single day. They do not wear their medals. They do not talk about their service. They suffer in silence. Post-traumatic stress, survivor's guilt, depression, all of it invisible. And too often, we treat them like problems to be solved instead of heroes to be honored. That ends today. Daniels, you will personally escort Mr. Carter to wherever he needs to go. You will make sure he is treated with the dignity he has earned. Is that understood? Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. Daniels' voice was thick with emotion. Thompson nodded, then turned back to Carter. Come on, Jimmy. Let us go stand with those names on that wall. The two old soldiers walked together toward Panel 10 West. The crowd parted for them. Other veterans in the plaza, recognizing what had happened, formed two lines, standing at attention. It was not an official ceremony, but it did not need to be. Carter placed his hand back on the wall, on the name he had been tracing before. His best friend from boot camp, a kid from Nebraska who never made it to his 20th birthday. Thompson stood beside him in silence. Daniels stood behind them both, tears streaming down his face, finally understanding what respect really meant. The sun began to set over the memorial, casting long shadows across the names of the fallen. And in that moment, as the crowd observed a minute of silence, James Carter finally felt at peace. He had kept his promise. He had stood with his brothers, and he had reminded everyone watching what sacrifice truly means. If this story of courage, sacrifice, and the importance of honoring our veterans touched your heart, please share it with others. Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe to BR Veteran Stories to hear more true tales of heroism and the warriors who never stopped fighting, even after they came home. These stories need to be told. These heroes need to be remembered. Thank you for listening.